Hey y'all.
Hey,
Happy Friday.
got my feather on today. I
Right.
just realized.
So we wanted to talk to y'all about where you learn about love.
Yeah, which is a
Um,
gigantic, more than 10-minute
it
conversation.
is. But
We know that.
since we teach love, we thought it would be a good idea to talk about where y'all have already learned it from, since, presumably you've learned it from other people besides us.
Guess so.
You know, maybe. Um, So we were talking about like the top three, sort of
Kind of like essentially, to not put words in anybody else's mouth, they were our top three.
our top three teachers. And so the first one's kind of obvious, like our parents. You could say your family. So we're gonna say our parents were our first teachers, whether they knew it or not, and whether they were teaching us healthy or unhealthy examples.
And I think in this case, we're mostly talking about like romantic love, right?
Yeah.
We knew our parents were romantically involved and treated each other differently than they treated their children, which meant something was new at a very young age before we even knew anything about that.
Yeah.
Then in comes number two, which is television, movies, music,
movies, right? Music, the media.
The media. You started to watch like Saved by the Bell.
I was thinking Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Kelly Kapowski and Zach Morris. You learned.
You were like, man, they're cute together, but he's kind of a jerk sometimes.
Yeah. And like I grew up watching Martin. And so many people idolize Gina and Martin's relationship, and it's a horrible relationship. It really is. It's not goals at all.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, I just want a Martin and Gina. I'm like, I would never ask for that.
Yeah.
But there are people who say that anyway.
Yeah. That was the next impactful. And then really in age order, the next thing we did was start to try to have them.
Yeah.
And
having our first relationships. Having relationships, period. But definitely from our first relationships, we learned a lot about what love is or isn't.
What it
feels like, how it works.
Yeah. What we're willing to give up or sacrifice or shift about who we are.
And how important sacrifice is. Now, we don't advocate sacrifice.
No.
But we both, in our first relationships, you believe sacrifice was a part of love or a part of being in a relationship.
Oh, I 100% thought I was killing it when I sacrificed. I was like, man, I'm a good girlfriend. They're so lucky.
Right. And part of the reason we, talked about this before, and part of the reason that we both felt that way about sacrifice is because we had a more transactional understanding of love versus principle. So we both kind of felt like you had to give something up. You had to, make sacrifices, compromise with this person, give them what they want, be lovable so that they can love you back, so they can give you something back, so they can appreciate you, or like whatever the thing is, like in a relationship, you got to give something to get something.
And I learned that I learned watching my family have relationships. I learned sacrifice as a relationship skill. Now I would not agree that's how I want to relate, but I definitely was practicing. I went right to work.
Yeah.
Practicing the things I watched.
And on TV and movies too. You sacrifice and,
The thing they don't tell, this is where I think it's really messed up, and this is why we're not advocates of sacrifice.
Yeah.
The thing they don't tell you is that when you sacrifice and you didn't tell anybody that you made a big sacrifice and you want credit, but nobody knows you did it, because that's what sacrifice is about. It's about not talking about it.
Yeah.
And we go on our merry way, and in real life, nobody's watching that movie to tell the world how they loved your character the best.
Yes.
In the movie, you're like, man, he sacrificed, but man, he's my favorite character because that's a good guy right there. And he gets praised only because we get to see both sides of that relationship. When you do it in real life, ain't nobody know you did that. Nobody is high-fiving you for giving up something that was really important to you, maybe attached to your identity and well-being. Nobody's going to high-five
you.
Nobody even knows you
did
it.
Except you. And you will feel it. And it will have greater weight to you than it does to the other person. So even if they do recognize on some level, it will still be more valuable to you than it is to them. They will see it as something that was easier for you than maybe it was, or not as significant to you,
or that they didn't even need you to do that for them.
Or something that
I didn't need
you know that they could take it or leave it. And so compromise is much more. I mean, we kind of talked about this before, but
we talked about the big difference is compromise. You're communicating about the things you're willing to adjust for. Sacrifice, you just do kind of in a martyr way, expecting a reward, and that nobody knows you did that. You didn't talk about it.
And I'll tell you this too. The teachers we just named, those 3, whatever they taught you, but especially if they taught you sacrifice, they didn't know that that's what they were teaching you. And they didn't know that compromise was a healthier alternative, especially for the movies, because in the movies, sacrifice is so romantic and so
rampant in movies.
Yeah, it's so entertaining. It's so like beautiful and like it's a tear-jerking thing. In real life, it will make you resentful.
Yeah, it's lonely.
It's very lonely. It does not end with happily ever after. I would dare to say it never ends with happily ever after. Either the relationship ends or you're just not happy.
Yeah.
But it's not a happily ever after thing.
It's a slippery slope to get yourself onto, because where does it end?
Right.
Where do you stop?
Right. So, we just wanted to kind of talk about this a little bit, because it's, I think, really important, especially in your own, self-love journey and in learning about healthy relationships, to examine and become aware of what you already know and how you know it, who taught it to you, and, like, why, like, did they know they were teaching you this, or was it something you just picked up?
Right. And obviously that's going to be helpful to you on your journey. And then also, I think as we become mature, responsible adults and we think about our footprint in the world and our legacy that we're leaving, knowing that the way you learned love accidentally, incidentally from people, watching them, experiencing them, you are now teaching love through that same route. And it's important. I would rather you're teaching it.
Yes.
I would rather know I'm teaching it, so I can leave the footprint I want and a legacy I'm proud of. And
so we can be intentional. Be intentional about what we're learning. Like, if you're watching this video or you listen to the podcast, you're being intentional about what you're learning, but also being intentional about what we're teaching and what we're presenting to other people, especially young people, who, like we said, those are our first 3 teachers. You might be one of their first 3 teachers. And that shapes how you encounter the teachers after that. So we definitely want to encourage everyone to be intentional. In order to do that, you have to be aware of how did this thing even get started.
Practice. That's just what we're doing. We're just here practicing.
Yeah. But we're so glad that y'all are learning love from us now. Does that sound bad?
I don't think so, but I'm also still learning love.
We're still learning. Yeah, to be clear.
Yes, I love to have a platform to share and talk
because
and have these
we
conversations in front of them, y'all, and I'm still learning. Having these conversations, I'm learning.
Yeah,
talking to you, I'm learning
from talking to you guys. And so, by no means
tripping and falling on my face.
Right. By no means are we experts.
I learned something.
Yes. We're still learning.
Yeah.
But
that's you kind of have to agree that you're going to commit to that if you actually are going to be expert enough to talk about it.
Yeah. And at the same time, we are very happy that you're learning from us, whatever you're learning, because we know that we're being really intentional about this being healthy and not haphazard or careless.
And we're grateful that you're willing to teach us back.
Yes. So see y'all next Friday.